My stepmother said, "From this day on, you no longer exist to me or your father." For years later, I left her homeless. You won't believe what happened to me. I thought losing my mom was the worst thing that could ever happen. I was wrong. The real nightmare began the night my stepmother, Selma, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "From now on, you don't exist to me or your father." And what if I told you, my own mother, from beyond the grave, had already seen it coming? Every single bit of it. I stood there, stunned. My mom had only been gone for a few months. My world was still upside down. I just stared at my dad, begging him with my eyes to tell her to back off, to get out of our house. But he just sighed, that heavy, defeated sigh. "Selma and I talked," he said like he was reading from a script. "We need to focus all our energy on her daughter, Candy. She's been through a divorce. She needs stability and support. You'll be fine on your own." Fine on my own? My mom just died. I was the one who needed support. But Selma cut through my thoughts like a knife. "You're tough, Bianca. Strong. Independent. So, from now on, you're on your own. No asking for money, rides, help with school. Nothing. Come to us with a problem? The answer is no. Don't waste your breath." I scoffed. "You can't be serious. Do I look like I'm joking?" She didn't. Not one bit. "Dad." I cried, my voice cracking. "She's saying you're not allowed to be my father anymore." He sighed again, that infuriating sigh that meant I was being difficult. "She's not saying that." Then what else could she possibly be saying? I was screaming now, tears welling up, but it felt good to finally let the rage out. Selma rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." Oh, I almost spit in her face. "You don't get to move into my mother's home and throw me away like garbage. I'm his daughter, his actual daughter." Her face went ice cold. "And I'm his wife, which means what I say goes. You can either accept that or make the next 4 years very difficult for yourself." It wasn't a warning. It was a threat, a promise. I looked at my dad one last time, a silent plea. "Please, say something." He just looked away. "Fine," I said, the word a bitter taste in my mouth. "I don't need any of you anyway." Selma smiled, a cold, victorious smile. Good girl. She had no idea. She didn't know my mom had left me $50,000 in a college fund. The day I turned 18, I was walking out of that house and never looking back. I just had to survive until then. For 2 weeks, I pretended Selma didn't exist. She wasn't family. She wasn't permanent. She was just some woman who would eventually leave the same way she came in. I kept my head down, stayed in my room, and waited for my dad to wake up, to realize what he'd married. But that illusion shattered the day I came home from school. My bedroom door was wide open. I could hear Candy inside giggling. I ran upstairs, my heart pounding, and froze in the doorway. My room. It was empty. Completely, utterly empty. The lavender walls my mom and I painted together were the only thing left. My bed, my desk, my posters, the fairy lights we'd hung, all gone. Candy stood in the middle of the barren space, holding her phone up, recording herself doing a slow spin. "And this is going to be my new dance studio. Mom's getting me a wall of mirrors and a ballet bar." She spotted me and grinned. "Oh, hey Bianca, you're finally home. Where's my stuff?" My voice was barely a whisper. "Garage, I think. Mom wanted to get this set up before the painters come tomorrow." "Painters? Painters!" "Yeah, we're doing pink and gold. The lavender is kind of depressing, honestly." Something inside my chest cracked. "You're painting over it?" Yeah, it's my room now. I'm not keeping your weird purple walls." I stood there trying to process. This room, where my mom let me stay home from school the day we painted it, where she got lavender paint on her nose and didn't notice for an hour, where she promised me it would always be my safe place. And now Candy, this rotten girl whose name's Selma, probably chose because she thought she'd be sweet, was planning her dance studio in it. I shoved past her and ran downstairs. Selma was in the kitchen, flipping through a dance equipment catalog, completely oblivious. "You're painting my room?" I screamed. "The room my mom and I made together." She didn't even look up. "Candy's room now. She can decorate it however she wants." "You can't just do that. You have no right." "Bianca." Selma finally looked at me. That patient, condescending expression she always used right before she said something truly awful. "Your mother is dead. She's been dead for a year. Those walls are just walls. The paint is just paint. At some point, you need to stop using her as an excuse to make everyone's life difficult." An excuse? An excuse. I've been patient with you. I've given you space to grieve, but I'm done watching you hold this entire family hostage because you can't let go of a woman who isn't coming back. I stared at her in disbelief. She was standing in my mother's kitchen in my mother's house, telling me I was holding the family hostage by missing her. "I want to talk to my dad." "Your father agreed to all of this. Why do you think we waited until he was at work?" She smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "He knew you'd throw a tantrum, and he didn't want to deal with it. He's tired, Bianca. You're exhausting him. Every time he starts to feel happy again, you find a way to drag him back down. Do you know what he told me last night?" I didn't answer. I wasn't sure I wanted to know, but I couldn't look away. I couldn't stop myself from waiting. He said marrying me was the first time he's felt like himself since she died. That this family, me, Candy, this life we've built, is what gets him through. She tilted her head, watching me. "And when you fight it, when you make things difficult, you're not hurting me, Bianca. You're hurting him. You're the thing standing between your father and his happiness." The words hit like a physical blow because I couldn't tell if she was lying. I couldn't tell if my dad had actually said that or if she was just making it up to hurt me. And somehow not knowing was worse. That's not true, is it? Think about it. Every time he starts to relax, every time he laughs, every time things feel normal, what do? You remind him. You drag him back. You make sure he can never move on. She shrugged. "I'm not the villain here. I'm the one trying to help him heal. You're the one picking at the wound." I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted to hurt her the way she was hurting me. But I didn't, because that's exactly what she wanted. She wanted me to explode so she could point at me and tell my dad how unstable I was, that I attacked her, that I was dangerous and needed to be sent away. So I swallowed it. All of it. I turned around and walked to the garage, where I found my entire life shoved into cardboard boxes like garbage waiting to be thrown out. That night, lying in the tiny guest room, staring at those white walls with no memories and half the size, I made myself a promise. I would survive this. I would get out. And I would take everything my mother left me, including that college fund. The next 3 years taught me how to disappear. Not physically. I was still there, eating their food, sleeping in their house, existing in the spaces they allowed me to exist. But the real me, the one who felt things, she went somewhere deep and quiet where they couldn't reach her. I worked 2 jobs. I kept a 4.0 GPA. I spoke to Selma and Candy in as few words as possible. I stopped asking my dad for anything because I already knew the answer. And I watched Candy become exactly what 3 years of coddling creates. A 17-year-old who couldn't do her own laundry, couldn't cook a meal, couldn't hold a job for more than 2 months. She'd have a panic attack if she had to make a phone call. Selma had created a daughter who couldn't survive without someone carrying her. Good luck with that, I thought. The only thing that kept me going was knowing what was waiting for me. $50,000, a full ride to college if my grades held, a life where none of them could touch me. But I quickly learned how stupid I'd been to trust anything in that house. I came downstairs one Saturday and found Candy at the kitchen table, eating cereal, wearing my mother's necklace, the one with the diamond pendant. My mom wore it every single day of my life, and now it was hanging around my stepsister's ugly neck like it belonged there. I stopped breathing. Candy looked up and smiled. She knew. She knew she was doing something that would hurt me, and she was enjoying watching it land. "Morning," she said sweetly. "Take it off." My voice was flat. "Take what off?" "You know what. Take it off right now." She touched the pendant, rubbing her fingers over the diamond. "This? Mom gave it to me. She said all that stuff in your mom's jewelry box was just collecting dust. I picked out the prettiest one." "That was her favorite," I choked out. "She wore it every day. She told me she wanted me to have it when she died." Candy tilted her head. "Well, she's dead now, and it's mine. Honestly, it looks better on me anyway. Your mom had kind of a thick neck, didn't she? It probably looked cheap on her." I moved before I could think. I lunged across the kitchen and grabbed the necklace, ripping it off her neck. The chain snapped. Candy screamed like I'd stabbed her, but I didn't care. I was shaking so hard I could barely stand, clutching the broken pendant in my fist. "You psycho!" Candy shrieked. "Mom! Mom! She attacked me!" Selma came running in. She saw Candy clutching her neck, saw me holding the necklace, and her face went cold. "What did you do?" "What did I do?" "Your daughter stole my mother's necklace. You gave her my mother's jewelry, like it was yours to give. Everything in this house belongs to the family now. Your mother's things were sitting in a box, doing nothing. I decided they should be used." "Used? Used?" I was screaming now and couldn't stop. "This is all I have left of her. You've taken everything else. My room, my dad, my entire life. And now you're giving away the only things I have left. Your mother is gone. These things are just objects. They don't bring her back. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to decide anything about her. You didn't know her. You didn't love her. You just showed up and started erasing her like she never existed." Selma stepped closer. "I'm the only reason this family functions. I'm the one who takes care of your father, who manages this household, who puts up with your constant drama. Your mother left a mess behind, and I've spent 3 years cleaning it up. Including you," she said. "Including you. Like I was a stain she was still trying to scrub out." I slapped her. My hand connected with her face, so hard the sound echoed through the kitchen. Her head snapped to the side, and when she looked back, there was a red mark blooming on her cheek and something in her eyes that looked almost happy, like I'd finally given her what she wanted. "Harold!" she screamed. "Harold, get in here now!" My dad came running. He saw Selma's face, Candy's tears, the broken necklace in my hand. "Bianca, what the hell?" "She gave Mom's necklace to Candy. It was her favorite one, and she wanted me to have it." "You hit her." "Did you hear what I said?" "She gave away Mom's jewelry. She's been going through her things and giving them to Candy." Dad looked at Selma. For 1 second, I thought he might actually hear me, might actually take my side for once in 3 years. Then Selma touched her cheek and let out a small whimper, and my dad's face hardened. "I don't care what she did. You don't hit people. Your mother would be so ashamed of you right now. Don't use her against me. She raised you better than this. She'd be disgusted watching you act this way over a piece of jewelry." Something in me died when he said that. The last tiny piece that still believed he loved me, that still thought he might choose me if it really came down to it. "A piece of jewelry." I repeated, my voice hollow. "That's what you think this is about. Go to your room. Don't come out until I say so." "Dad, now." I walked upstairs in a daze. Behind me, I could hear Selma crying, telling my dad she didn't feel safe with me in the house anymore. Candy saying I'd tried to choke her. My dad apologizing over and over for me, for my existence, for the burden I'd become. I sat on my bed, looked at my mother's broken necklace, and finally understood. I had no one. I had nothing. And the only way I was getting out of this was if I stopped expecting anyone to save me. That night, I gathered everything I had left of my mother, the necklace, her photos, her favorite sweater, a letter she wrote me for my 10th birthday, and I hid them somewhere outside the house, somewhere they'd never find them. Then I went back to my room and started counting the days until I turned 18 and could access my college fund. Then I'd disappear. They thought they'd broken me. They had no idea they just taught me how to wait. Months later, I applied to colleges and got into every single one. Full scholarships to 3 of them, based on my grades and the essays I'd written about overcoming adversity. Funny how trauma makes great college application material. All I needed now was my mom's college fund to cover living expenses, and I'd be free. $50,000 waiting with my name on it. I found my dad alone in the living room after dinner. Selma was loading the dishwasher. Candy was on her phone. I figured it was as good a time as any. "Dad," I said, "I need to talk to you about Mom's college fund, the one she set up before she died. I'm going to need access to it for school." The color drained from his face. Everything slowed down. "The fund," he said. "Right, the fund." She told me there was $50,000. She said it would be in my name when I turned 18. Dad couldn't find his words. "Bianca, there were expenses after she died. Medical bills, funeral costs. The house needed work. We had to make some adjustments." Adjustments. Selma appeared in the doorway, drying her hands on a dish towel. She had that look on her face, the one she always got when she was about to twist the knife. That money was absorbed into household finances years ago, Bianca. We're all one family here. We share resources. I stared at her, absorbed. Your father and I discussed it. It was the responsible thing to do. Candy's activities, home improvements, family expenses. Candy's activities. She has real talent. Those lessons and competitions and coaches cost money. Your mother's fund helped provide those opportunities. I turned to my dad. "You spent my college fund on her dance lessons." He couldn't meet my eyes. It wasn't like that. Things got complicated. The money was just sitting there and we needed it. $50,000. My voice sounded strange, far away. Money my mother saved for 17 years. Money she told me would be mine. And you spend it on Candy. On the family. Selma snapped. "Everything we do is for this family. I'm sorry your mother made promises she couldn't keep, but don't. The old me would have screamed. She would have thrown things. She would have hit them. She would have given them exactly the reaction they expected. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I just nodded slowly. Yeah, I should have expected that. I turned to my dad and glared at him with cold, dark eyes. "You've been a coward for 3 years. Aren't you sick of it yet?" He flinched as if I'd hit him. "Bianca," Selma intervened. "All I see now is a weak, pathetic man who'd let his wife steal from his own daughter. You're pathetic. You don't get to speak to your father that way. You're an ungrateful, spiteful. I'm honest." I stood up. "You wanted me to be independent? Congratulations. I am." I walked out of that house and straight to my grandma's. She was the only person left who remembered my mother the way I did. The only person who still said her name without flinching. Grandma opened the door before I even knocked. She took one look at my face and stepped aside to let me in. What happened? I sat down at her kitchen table, the same table where my mom used to do homework as a kid, and told her everything. Grandma listened without interrupting. When I finished, she shook her head slowly. "That man, your mother knew. She always knew." I looked at her. Knew what? She got up and walked to the cabinet above her refrigerator. She pulled down a folder I'd never seen before, thick with papers, and set it on the table between us. "Your mother wasn't stupid, Bianca. She knew exactly who your father was. She knew he was weak. She knew he'd remarry fast after she was gone. And she knew whoever came next would try to take everything she'd built." She sat down across from me. "So she made a plan." I stared at the folder. "What kind of plan?" She opened it and spread the papers out. Deeds, bank statements, legal documents with my mother's signature at the bottom. The college fund was joint. Your mother and Harold managed it together. After she died, he had full access. What he did wasn't illegal. It was just. She paused, searching for the word. Cowardly. That money is gone. There's no getting it back. I felt nauseous. I'd expected that, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. But your mother knew something like this might happen, so she protected what she could. She pulled out a document and slid it toward me. The house, Bianca. She put it in your name before she died. I looked at the paper, looked at my name, typed in official font next to words like sole owner and transfer of deed. Looked back at Grandma. What? The house is yours. Has been since your mother passed. Your father has been living there this whole time, either thinking it belongs to him or knowing it doesn't and hoping you'd never find out. Either way, he has no claim. When you turn 18, you have full legal control. You can let him stay. You can charge rent. You can sell it. You can kick him out. It's yours. I couldn't breathe. The house. My mother's house. The walls I grew up in. The rooms they took from me. The space Selma had been redecorating and claiming as her own for 4 years. It was mine. It had always been mine. There's more, Grandma said. She pulled out another set of papers, bank statements, an account I'd never seen before. Your mother set up a separate account in your name only. Money your father couldn't touch. It's been sitting there for 4 years, untouched, waiting for you. I looked at the balance. $62,000. Not a fortune, but enough. Enough to start a life without needing anything from them. They stole what they could access, she said quietly. They've been living in what they couldn't steal, and they never knew about what your mother actually protected. I sat there, staring at those numbers, those documents, my mother's handwriting on forms she'd filled out years ago, knowing exactly what would happen after she was gone. She saw it coming. All of it. She knew my dad would fail me. Knew someone like Selma would swoop in. Knew I'd need a way out. And she gave me one. Grandma reached across the table and took my hand. Do you understand what this means? I nodded slowly. In 3 months, when I turn 18, I own the house they've been treating like theirs. I own the walls candies, dance, trophies hang on. I own the rooms they moved me out of. Everything Selma has been claiming belongs to her actually belongs to me. What are you going to do? She asked. I thought about the last 4 years. The family meeting where Selma told me I was on my own. The room they took, the necklace they gave away, the college fund they spent, my dad telling me I was impossible to love. All of it. Every moment, every betrayal. Every time I was told to be strong because they didn't want to take care of me. I looked at my grandmother. I'm going to take back everything they think is theirs. I drove home that night with the folder hidden in my trunk. Walked into the house like nothing had happened. Selma was in the kitchen, cleaning up from dinner, shooting me a look as I passed. Nice of you to come back. We need to talk about your behavior earlier. I didn't stop walking. I'm tired. We can talk tomorrow. Excuse me. You don't get to just walk away from, good night, Selma. I went upstairs and closed my door, sat on my bed with my heart pounding. 3 months. I just had to survive 3 months, and I could do that. I'd been surviving this house for 4 years. 3 more months was nothing. A few hours later, there was a knock on my door. My dad's voice hesitant. Bianca, can we talk? I opened the door and leaned against the frame. I refused to let him in. What? He looked uncomfortable, guilty. I was glad. I know you're upset about the college fund. I wanted to explain. There's nothing to explain. You spent it. It's gone. I already figured out how to pay for college myself. He blinked. You did. Scholarships. I got a full ride to 3 different schools. I don't need your money. I watched the relief wash over his face and felt sick. He wasn't relieved that I'd found a solution. He was relieved that he didn't have to feel guilty anymore, that I'd let him off the hook. That's wonderful, honey. I knew you'd figure it out. You've always been so strong, independent, capable. I know. You've told me. I started to close the door. He put his hand out to stop it. Bianca, I know things have been hard. I know the transition hasn't been easy, but I'm trying. We're all trying. Can't you meet us halfway? I looked at him. This man who used to be my father, who used to read me bedtime stories and protect me from the monsters under my bed. But now he had failed to protect me from the monsters sleeping on his bed. You told me I was impossible to love, I said, remembering the kitchen after the necklace. Do you remember that? He went pale. I was upset. I didn't mean you meant it. And you know what? You were right. I am impossible to love for you. Because loving me would require you to stand up to Selma, and you're not capable of that. So I stopped needing your love. I stopped needing anything from you. That's what you wanted, right? That's what you've been telling me since the day she moved in. Figure it out yourself, Bianca. Be strong, Bianca. You don't need us, Bianca. I tilted my head. Well, congratulations. I don't. I closed the door in his face, heard him stand there for a long moment before his footsteps retreated down the hall. Then I sat on my bed and smiled. 3 months. The next 3 months were a performance. I went to school. I worked my jobs. I kept my head down and my mouth shut. I didn't fight with Selma anymore. Didn't react when she made her little comments. Didn't flinch when my dad took her side. I just waited. Counted the days on a calendar I kept hidden in my closet, crossing off each one with a red pen like a prisoner marking time until release. Candy noticed the change, too, and she didn't like it. The old Bianca was predictable, easy to provoke, fun to torture. This new version, who barely acknowledged her existence, was unsettling. So she escalated. She started with small things, like using my shampoo until the bottle was empty and leaving it in the shower for me to find, eating food I'd bought with my own money, and shrugging when I mentioned it. I didn't see your name on it, unplugging my phone charger at night. Petty stuff. Annoying but manageable. I didn't react. Just bought a lock for my door and kept my important things hidden. Then she got bolder. I came home from school to find my work uniform had coffee spilled all over it. Oops, Candy said from the couch, not even looking up from her phone. Accident. I had to wear a stained shirt to my shift. My manager gave me a warning. I still didn't react, just noted it, filed it away, added it to the list of things I'd remember when the time came. One morning, I opened the fridge to grab the lunch I'd meal prepped the night before and found an empty container. I walked into the living room where Candy was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through Instagram. You ate my food. She didn't look up. There was nothing else. There's an entire fridge full of food your mom bought. I didn't want that stuff. I stared at her. 17 years old, never worked for anything in her life, never been told no, never had to solve a single problem without her mother swooping in to fix it. And here she was, eating food I'd paid for with money I'd earned at jobs I worked while she sat on her ass and scrolled through pictures of influencers. Something slipped out. Not anger, just an observation. You've never bought groceries in your life. Never cooked a meal. Never held a job for more than 2 months. What exactly are you going to do when you can't just take things that other people made? Candy's head snapped up. Excuse me. It's a genuine question. Your mom won't be around forever. What's your plan? Just find another person to leech off of. Her face twisted. You're just jealous because my mom actually takes care of me. Meanwhile, your mom died just to get away from you. I could have left a hole in the fridge from the amount of anger I felt when she said that, but I contained myself and hit her back with the honest truth. Takes care of you, Candy? She's crippled you. You're 17 and you can't do laundry. Can't cook, can't hold a job, can't make a phone call without having a panic attack. You've never solved a single problem without running to mommy. That's not love. That's neglect with better packaging. Candy was on her feet now. Shut up. What happens when there's no one left to mooch off of? When there's no one to clean up your messes? You're completely useless without her, and you don't even see it. I said, shut up. Make me. She stormed off to find Selma. I could hear them in the kitchen. Candy's whiny voice. Selma's sharp responses. I didn't care. Let them talk. In a few months, they were going to have much bigger problems than my opinions. The final month before my birthday, Candy got desperate. She'd turn off the hot water while I was in the shower, throw away my mail and claim it was an accident, tell Selma I'd called her a bad mother, which I hadn't, but it wasn't a lie either. Selma believed Candy. Selma always believed Candy. One night, I was walking to my room and Candy stepped into the hallway to block my path, arms crossed and her usual smug smile. Say you're sorry for what you said about me. I stopped. No. Then you're not getting past. I tilted my head and studied her, really looked at her. This girl who'd spent 4 years making my life miserable because she could, because her mother encouraged it, because my father allowed it. She thought she had power over me. She had no idea. You know what I've realized about you, Candy? You've spent 4 years trying to make me miserable, and it worked sometimes. I'll give you that. But at the end of all of it, I have a job. I have savings. I have a plan. I have a future. What do you have? Her jaw tightened. I have a family that actually loves me. You have a mother who did everything for you so you'd never learn to do anything for yourself. The second she can't carry you anymore, you're going to collapse. And I'm going to be long gone, living my life not thinking about you at all. I stepped closer to her. Now move. She didn't move, just stood there glaring at me. I waited. Then I said, 3 more months and I'm gone forever. You won't have anyone to torture anymore. What are you going to do then? Develop a personality. Something flickered across her face. Fear, maybe. The realization that her favorite target was about to disappear and she had nothing else going on in her life. She stepped aside. I walked past her to my room and closed the door. Then I sat on my bed and smiled. 2 weeks later, I turned 18. There was no party, no cake, no acknowledgement from anyone in the house that it was my birthday. I woke up, went to school, came home. My dad was in his office. Selma was watching TV. Candy was at a friend's house. None of them said a word. I grabbed my bag and my keys. Going out for dinner with Grandma, I told my dad as I passed his office. He nodded without looking up. Have fun. He didn't remember what day it was. The year before Mom died, he threw me a surprise party. He invited all my friends, got me a cake shaped like a soccer ball. He told me I was his favorite person in the whole world. Now, he couldn't even remember the date. It didn't hurt anymore. I was past hurting. I was just ready. I wasn't going to dinner, though. I was going to a lawyer's office. My lawyer, Lydia, spread documents out on her desk and walked me through everything. The house was mine. Current market value, approximately $450,000. My father had been living there for 4 years without any legal ownership. The separate account my mother set up contained $62,000, all mine, accessible immediately now that I was 18. What are your options? Lydia asked. You can let them stay. You can charge rent. You can sell the property. Or you can evict them. It's your house, your decision. I didn't hesitate. I want them out. Lydia nodded and made a note. I'll draft a formal notice to vacate. Once served, they'll have 30 days to leave the property. You can mail it, use a process server, or deliver it yourself. I thought about it. Thought about Selma's face when she realized what was happening. Thought about my dad's guilt. Thought about Candy's confusion. I wanted to see all of it. I'll deliver it myself. 3 days later, I waited until everyone was home. It was a normal evening. Selma was in the kitchen making dinner. Candy was on the couch with her phone. My dad was in his office pretending to work. The house smelled like garlic and onions. The TV was playing some reality show Candy liked. Everything was normal. No one knew that everything was about to change. I need everyone in the living room now. Selma's frown deepened. Excuse me. Family meeting. I sat down in the armchair. Selma followed me, irritated, and called for my dad. He came out of his office, looking confused. Candy didn't move from the couch, but she put her phone down, curious. They gathered around me, the same way they had 4 years ago when Selma called her first family meeting. When she'd told me I was on my own, when she'd set the rules that would define the next 4 years of my life. Now it was my turn. What's this about? My dad asked. The house, I said. Selma rolled her eyes. What about the house? I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope, set it on the coffee table between us. This is a formal notice to vacate. You have 30 days to leave. Silence. Complete silence. I watched their faces cycle through confusion, disbelief, and something else. Something that looked like the beginning of fear. My dad laughed nervously. What are you talking about? I looked at him, held his gaze. The house. This house. It's mine. Mom left it to me before she died. It's been in my name for 4 years. You've been living in my house this whole time. I paused. That ends now. Selma's face went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, anger, fear, and then something hard and cold. That's ridiculous, Harold. Tell her that's ridiculous. But Dad wasn't saying anything. He'd gone pale, white as a sheet. He was staring at me with his mouth slightly open, and I knew. I'd always suspected, but now I knew for sure. You knew, I said to him. Didn't you, Dad? You knew this whole time. He couldn't meet my eyes. Couldn't look at me. Couldn't look at Selma. Just sat there, frozen like a kid caught stealing. Selma's head snapped toward him. Harold, what is she talking about? He didn't answer. The room went very still. I leaned back in the armchair, crossed my legs, and let them sit in the silence for a moment. Then I smiled. So, let's talk about what happens next. Selma recovered first. She always did. This is insane. You can't just forge some documents and pretend you own a house. Harold, tell her. Tell her this is ridiculous. But Dad still wasn't talking. He was staring at the envelope on the coffee table like it was a bomb about to go off. Selma's voice went sharp. Harold, say something. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. I watched Selma's face as the realization hit her. For years of marriage, for years of redecorating this house, hosting dinner parties, calling it her home, building a life in these walls. All of it in a house her husband knew wasn't theirs. She'd been stealing from me for 4 years. But she'd also been played by the man sitting next to her who was too much of a coward to tell her the truth. You knew, she said to him. Her voice was quiet now. Dangerous. This whole time you knew? It was complicated, he managed. Complicated. She was on her feet now. You let me move my daughter into this house. You let me spend money on renovations. You let me plan a future here. And you knew it wasn't even yours. I thought maybe she'd never find out. I thought maybe when she turned 18, she'd just let us stay. You thought. Selma's voice cracked. You gambled our entire life on your daughter being too stupid to figure out the truth. I almost laughed, but I kept my face neutral. Let them tear into each other. It was more satisfying than anything I could have said. Candy was looking between everyone, completely lost. Wait, can someone please explain what's happening? What do you mean the house is hers? That doesn't make any sense. It makes perfect sense, I said. Mom knew exactly who Dad was. She knew he'd remarry fast, and whoever came next would try to take everything she built. So, she protected what she could. The house went into my name before she died. Your mom has been redecorating my property for 4 years. Candy's face went pale. But where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem. You can't just kick us out. This is our home. No, it's my home. You've been guests. Very rude, Very ungrateful guests who ate my food and stole my room and made my life miserable for 4 years. And now your invitation has been revoked. Candy turned to my dad. Dad, do something. You can't let her do this. He flinched at the word Dad coming from her mouth. He looked at me, then at Selma before landing on the floor. I don't know what to do. Of course you don't. Selma spat. You never know what to do. You just sit there and let everyone else clean up your messes. That's all you've ever done. Their marriage was cracking right in front of me. Good. Let it crack. Let it shatter into a million pieces. I stood up. You have 30 days. I suggest you start packing. I walked upstairs to my room and closed the door. Behind me, I could hear Selma screaming at my dad, Candy crying, the whole house falling apart. I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling and smiled. The next 2 weeks were entertaining. Selma cycled through every tactic she had, starting with manipulation. She caught me in the kitchen the morning after the family meeting. Her whole demeanor transformed. Soft, reasonable, gentle. Bianca, I know we've had our differences. I know things haven't always been easy between us, but we're family. Surely we can work something out. I poured myself a glass of water. We're not family. We never were. I've tried so hard with you. I really have. Maybe I made mistakes, but my heart was in the right place. Can't you see that? I looked at her, studied her face, the carefully constructed expression of concern, the tears forming in her eyes on command. She was good. I'd give her that. What exactly did you try, Selma? Taking my room, giving away my mother's jewelry, spending my college fund on dance lessons for your daughter. Which part of that was your heart being in the right place? Her mask slipped for just a second, frustration flickering behind her eyes. Then it was back, the wounded stepmother routine. I was trying to build a family. I was trying to help you move on from your grief. Everything I did was for this family. You don't have a family here anymore. You have 30 days. 29 now, actually. I walked past her and went to school. She tried the legal route next. Came home a few days later with a folder full of papers and a new attitude. Confident, smug. The old Selma I knew and hated. I spoke to a lawyer today. We're contesting the deed. There are ways to challenge these things. Undue influence, mental incapacity, improper execution. You'll be hearing from our attorney. I didn't react. Good luck with that. You think you're so smart. You think you've won, but you're 18 years old and you have no idea how the real world works. This isn't over. I shrugged and went to my room. 3 days later, I heard her on the phone in the kitchen, her voice tight and strained. What do you mean there's nothing you can do? She was 14 when the transfer happened. There has to be something. I don't care what the documents say. Find a way to challenge them. What do you mean it's airtight? She hung up and threw her phone across the counter. The lawyer had reviewed everything. My mother used one of the best estate attorneys in the state. Every document was perfect, every signature verified, every legal requirement met. There was nothing to contest. Selma fired that lawyer and found another one. A fighter, someone had recommended. She paid him a retainer with money they didn't really have and waited for good news. The good news never came. Same answer. The deed was valid. The transfer was legal. There was nothing to challenge. I heard her screaming at him over the phone. Heard her crying in the master bedroom afterward. I didn't feel bad, not even a little. When the legal tactics failed, Selma went external. If she couldn't beat me in court, she'd beat me in the court of public opinion. She started calling my dad's family, his sister, his brother, his cousins, everyone she could think of. I know exactly what she told them because they started calling me. My dad's sister first. Honey, I heard what's happening. This isn't right. You can't throw your own father out on the street after everything he's done for you. I almost laughed. What has he done for me? Name one thing. He raised you. He provided for you. He let his wife take my room, give away my mother's things, and spend my college fund. He told me I was impossible to love. He watched Selma treat me like garbage for 4 years and never said a word. Is that what you mean by providing for me? Silence on the other end. I didn't know about any of that. No one asked. Everyone just assumed Selma's version was true. The patient stepmother, the troubled stepdaughter. But here's the reality. They stole everything they could get their hands on, and now they're facing consequences. That's it. That's the whole story. More calls came over the next few days, but the narrative was shifting. Family members who'd initially sided with Selma were hearing my side now. The details she'd conveniently left out. For years of being told I was too mature to need anything, while Kenny got everything handed to her. My dad's aunt called, the one who'd been close with my mom. She said she always wondered what happened to the house. Said she was proud of me for standing up for myself. Said my mother would be proud too. I cried after that call, but only in my room. Never where anyone in the house could see. By week 2, Selma's support network had collapsed. People stopped returning her calls. Her campaign to turn family against me had backfired completely. Now everyone knew the truth. Now everyone knew who she really was. She was more isolated than ever, and she was getting desperate. She turned to my dad, pushed him to talk to me, guilt-tripped him, manipulated him, told him he was the only one who could fix this. She's your daughter. She has to listen to you. Use your relationship. Make her understand. As if there was any relationship left to use. He knocked on my door one night, hesitant, nervous, the same way he'd been knocking for 4 years whenever he wanted something from me. I opened it, but didn't invite him in like usual. What? Can we talk, please? I leaned against the door frame, waited. He took a deep breath. I know I haven't been perfect. I know I've made mistakes, but Bianca, you have to understand. Selma doesn't deserve to be homeless. Candy didn't do anything wrong. They're innocent in all of this. I stared at him. Candy ate my food, destroyed my clothes, and made my life miserable for 4 years because she thought it was funny. She told me my mother died just to get away from me. Selma spent every dollar she could get her hands on and called it family finances. They're not innocent. They're just facing consequences for the first time in their lives. But where will they go? They don't have anywhere. That's not my problem. It was never my problem. They should have thought about that before they spent 4 years treating me like I didn't exist. He shifted his weight and tried a different approach. Your mother wouldn't want this. She wouldn't want you to be cruel. Wrong move. Very wrong move. Don't you dare tell me what my mother would want. You lost that right when you let Selma give away her necklace. When you stood there and told me she'd be ashamed of me for being upset about it. I stepped closer to him. You know what I think? I think Mom saw exactly who you were. I think she knew you'd fail me the second she was gone. That's why she put the house in my name. She was protecting me from you. His face crumpled. That's not fair. None of this is fair. But you're the one who made it this way, not me. You had 4 years to be my father, for years to choose me even once. You didn't, and now you get to live with that choice. I closed the door. That night, I heard him and Selma fighting. Really fighting. Screaming at each other in the master bedroom. Her calling him weak and useless and pathetic. Him yelling that none of this would have happened if she hadn't pushed so hard. If she'd just treated me fairly. If she'd just been a decent person. It was too little, too late. But it was still satisfying to hear. By the end of the week, he was sleeping in his office. Week 3, Kenny finally broke. She'd been holding it together through sheer denial, convinced that somehow this would all work out, that her mother would fix it, that my dad would fix it, that someone would swoop in and save them the way someone always did. But no one was coming, and it was starting to sink in. I found her in her room, surrounded by clothes and boxes, completely overwhelmed. She wasn't packing. She was just standing there, frozen. I don't know what to take, she said when she saw me in the doorway. Her voice was small, defeated. I don't know what to do. When we moved here, Mom handled everything. I just showed up with my suitcase, and my room was already set up. I've never had to actually do any of this myself. You put things in boxes, you load the boxes in a car, you drive to a new place. It's not complicated. But where are we even going? We can't afford anything. I shrugged. Sounds like a you problem. This is your fault. You're ruining our lives. I'm taking back what's mine. There's a difference. She started crying, ugly, heaving sobs. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to get a job or find an apartment or pay bills or any of it. Mom always handled everything. I watched her fall apart and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. This was exactly what I'd predicted, exactly what I'd warned her about. The second her mother couldn't carry her anymore, she'd collapse. And here she was collapsing. A few days later, Candy knocked softly on my door. When I opened it, her face was puffy from crying, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Please, she said. Please, Bianca, I know we haven't been. I know I wasn't always nice to you, but I don't have anywhere to go. My mom doesn't have anywhere to go. Can't you just give us more time? Just a few more weeks to figure things out. Remember when I told you that you'd collapse the second your mom couldn't carry you anymore? I said, this is that moment. Figure it out. I started to close the door. She grabbed it. Please, I'm begging you. I know I was horrible. I know I was awful to you, but I was just a kid. I didn't know any better. You were the same age as me. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't think there would ever be consequences. I pulled the door from her grip. Welcome to consequences. I closed it and locked it. She sobbed out in the hallway, but I didn't open my door again. Day 28 came and Selma still hadn't packed. She'd spent the last 4 weeks cycling through denial and rage and manipulation, convinced that somehow she'd find a way out of this, that somehow she'd win. She was wrong, but she wasn't ready to admit it yet. She planted herself in the living room that morning and announced that she wasn't leaving. This is my home. I've lived here for 4 years. I've put my heart and soul into this place. You'll have to drag me out. That reminded me of me 4 years ago, begging them not to take my room away, but I was forced out regardless. And now I had the luxury of doing the same thing to her. I said, okay, and walked away. Then I called Lydia from my room and confirmed everything was in order. The sheriff had been notified. If they weren't out by 5 p.m. on day 30, law enforcement would escort them out. 2 more days. I could wait 2 more days. Day 30. I woke up early. I showered, got dressed, and ate breakfast in the kitchen while Selma glared at me from the living room. She still hadn't packed anything. Candy had managed to get some boxes together, but most of her stuff was still scattered around the house. My dad had 1 suitcase by the door, just one. He knew it was over, had known for days. He was just waiting for it to end. At noon, a car pulled into the driveway. It was a sheriff's deputy. I met him at the door, showed him the paperwork, and walked him through everything. He nodded and stepped inside. Selma saw the uniform and her face went white. This is private property. You can't just walk in here. Ma'am, I'm here to enforce a lawful eviction notice. You have until 5 p.m. today to vacate the premises. If you're not gone by then, I'm authorized to remove you. Selma's voice went shrill. I'll call my lawyer. This is illegal. You can't do this. That's your right, ma'am, but the eviction stands. He stepped back outside to wait, giving them the afternoon to get their things together. The next 5 hours were chaos. Selma screaming at my dad to do something. Candy crying while trying to shove clothes into garbage bags because she didn't have enough boxes. My dad silently loading what he could into their car. It was too small for everything. They had to make choices. What to take, what to leave behind. They argued about it constantly. Whose fault this was? Where they were even going to go. A motel, probably, until they figured something out. They didn't have a plan. They'd never thought they'd need one. 4:45 p.m. The deputy knocked on the door again. 15 minutes, folks. Selma was standing in the foyer, surrounded by boxes she hadn't loaded. Her hair was wild. Her makeup was smeared. She looked nothing like the put-together woman who'd walked into this house 4 years ago with her perfect smile and her master plan. She turned to me. "You're going to regret this. You're going to end up alone. No one is going to love someone this cold." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'll be alone in my own house." 5 p.m. The deputy came back. Selma still hadn't moved. He walked in, polite but firm. "Ma'am, it's time to go. I'm not leaving. This is my home. I have rights." "Ma'am, the eviction has been legally processed. You need to vacate the premises now. If you refuse, I'll have to remove you." Selma looked around wildly, at my dad, who was already walking out the door with his suitcase, at Candy, who was crying by the car, at me, standing in the living room watching it all happen. Harold, do something." But Dad was done. He put his suitcase in the trunk and got in the car without looking back. Selma had no one left. The deputy had to drag her to the car while she shrieked like an animal. Then they drove away. The house was all mine now. For the first time in 4 years, I felt like I was finally home. My mother had saved me, not just from them, but from becoming like them. She taught me that strength isn't about being tough, it's about being smart. It's about looking ahead, preparing, and making sure you always have a way out. Honestly, this whole experience changed me forever. Have you ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours in a way you never expected? Or had a moment where you realized someone you trusted was entirely different from who you thought? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.